The twin suns of Arenthia were setting slowly over the desert world, painting the sky with colors of red, gold, and violet. Long shadows stretched across the broken land where nothing seemed alive except the hot wind. The sand shimmered like liquid fire, and in the far distance the sound of falling metal echoed through the canyon. A small ship, half buried in the ground, smoked quietly as if the planet itself had swallowed it whole. Inside that wrecked ship, a man groaned as he tried to move. His name was Captain Ryan Cole, human explorer from Earth. He was not a soldier or a hero, just a man who believed in discovering the unknown. He had flown far beyond human-controlled space, looking for ancient ruins of alien civilizations that many believed no longer existed. But now, as his broken ship hissed and sparked, he knew the mission had gone wrong. Ryan pushed himself out through the cracked hatch. The dry heat hit him like a wall. His uniform was torn, and blood ran down his left arm, where sharp metal had cut through the skin. Still, he stood tall, looking around the endless horizon. There was no sign of rescue. His radio gave only static. His ship's beacon was destroyed. He was alone. He tightened his jacket and began to walk west, following the sinking suns. The sand was soft and heavy beneath his boots, but he moved with steady steps, every crunch of sand echoing through the silence. In his years of exploring, Ryan had learned one thing: survival always begins with calm thinking. Panic kills faster than wounds. After hours of walking, he found a series of old stone markers half buried in the sand. Strange carvings glowed faintly on their surface, like writing that came alive only in twilight. It was not human language, but Ryan had studied enough alien runes to recognize that they belonged to the ancient Arenthian royal lineage, a civilization that once ruled hundreds of worlds. Before their empire fell to war, he followed the stones until he saw something that made him stop. A trail of silver liquid crossed the sand. It was not water. It shimmered and glowed faintly under the suns. Ryan knelt down and touched it gently. The fluid was warm, like living light. "Not human blood," he whispered. His heart beat faster. Someone was out here and they were hurt. He followed the glowing trail. It led him toward a canyon filled with the remains of old statues and arches carved from red stone. The carvings were ancient but beautiful, shaped like wings and stars. The trail ended at the base of a broken pillar where something or someone was lying motionless in the sand. Ryan stepped closer and his breath caught. It was a woman. Not human, but alien, tall and graceful even in her injured state. Her skin was pale silver, with a faint glow that seemed to pulse softly in rhythm with her heartbeat. Her hair, long and blue, like the ocean under moonlight, spread across the sand. A cracked golden crown rested beside her head. She was alive, but barely. Ryan knelt beside her. Her chest rose and fell weakly. He looked around. There were signs of a fight. Burn marks, shattered crystal weapons, and the footprints of many soldiers. Whoever she was, she had been attacked and left to die. He gently brushed sand away from her face. "You're going to be fine," he said quietly, though he knew she could not understand him. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes the color of violet stars. She looked at him with confusion and fear. "Who man?" she whispered. The word was broken, but Ryan understood. "Yes," he said softly. "I'm human. You're safe now." She tried to move, but pain shot through her body. Her arm was burned, her shoulder bleeding silver light. Ryan tore a strip from his uniform and wrapped it carefully around her wound. He worked quickly, his hands steady even as the desert wind began to rise. "You must rest," he said, his voice calm. She blinked at him, her breathing shallow. "They left me," she murmured weakly. "My guards, my people, gone." Her voice broke like glass. Ryan's chest tightened. He didn't know her story, but he could see the truth in her eyes. Loss, fear, and pride mixed into one. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Come on, we have to get you out of this sun." He lifted her gently into his arms. She was light, almost weightless, but every step through the sand was heavy with the storm approaching from the horizon. The wind began to howl, throwing dust and fire into the sky. Ryan found a small cave beneath a rock ridge and carried her inside just before the storm hit. Inside the cave, it was cool and dark. He laid her on a flat stone and started a small fire using his emergency flares. The flame glowed blue, lighting the cave walls that were covered in more alien carvings, images of winged beings and stars falling from the sky. He placed his water canister beside her lips. "Drink," he said. She hesitated, then drank slowly, watching him with cautious eyes. "Why, you help?" she asked in broken common. Ryan smiled faintly. "Because you're hurt. Because I can." She stared at him for a long time, as if she was trying to understand this strange creature who had appeared out of nowhere. "I am Althea," she said finally. "Princess of Arenthia." Ryan blinked in surprise. "Princess." He looked again at the cracked crown near her head. It wasn't just decoration, it carried the royal symbol he'd seen in history texts. He suddenly realized who she was. The lost heir of Arenthia, believed dead after a rebellion years ago. "You're the real one," he said slowly. "The heir they wrote about." She nodded weakly. "My people betrayed me. Rebels attacked. My ship destroyed. I fell here. Thought I'd die." Ryan sat beside her, silent for a moment. He had heard stories of alien wars, of betrayal, and power struggles, but seeing it written in her wounds made it real. "You're safe for now," he said. "I'll protect you." Her lips curved faintly, though she was too weak to smile. "You are human. Strange. Brave. No one else would help enemy princess." Ryan laughed softly. Maybe humans are just too stubborn to leave someone behind. The storm raged outside for hours, but inside the cave, time felt slow and peaceful. Ryan cleaned her wounds and wrapped them again. Althea told him small pieces of her story, how her people once ruled the skies with kindness until greed divided them. How she refused to fight her own citizens, and how they turned against her. Ryan listened quietly, his eyes thoughtful. "Sounds like humans and Arenthians aren't so different," he said finally. "We both make mistakes. We both forget what really matters." She looked at him with tired eyes. "What matters? To humans? Hope," he said, "and helping each other. Even when it's hard." She stared into the fire, the reflection of flames dancing in her violet eyes. "Hope," she whispered softly, as if testing the word for the first time. "I forgot that feeling." Hours passed, and the storm began to die down. Ryan checked his equipment. The communicator was still dead, and his locator beacon was buried under the crashed ship miles away. They would have to survive on their own for now. Althea tried to sit up, but the pain stopped her. "Rest," Ryan said, gently pressing her shoulder. "You're healing, but you need time." Her gaze softened. "You talk like protector," she murmured. "You act like soldier." He shook his head. "I'm just an explorer. But maybe right now, I'm whatever you need me to be." For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. "Then I am lucky to have you here." Ryan looked away, pretending to adjust the fire, but his face warmed slightly. There was something about her presence, something calm and royal, yet fragile, that pulled at his heart in a way he couldn't explain. As night settled, two moons rose high above the cave entrance. Their pale light blended with the flicker of the fire, casting a silver glow over the princess. Her wounds shimmered softly under her skin, glowing with faint energy. Ryan noticed strange crystal veins near her shoulder, an alien trait that seemed both beautiful and mysterious. He turned his gaze to the stars beyond the cave. "You said your people will come," he said quietly. "Are they still looking for you?" Her voice was almost a whisper. "Some will. To kill. Others will hide. My father is gone. The throne empty. No one knows I live, and we'll keep it that way," Ryan said firmly. "At least until you're ready." She looked at him for a long moment. "You risk your life, human. You do not even know me." Ryan smiled faintly. "Sometimes you don't need to know someone to do what's right." Silence filled the cave for a while. The fire cracked softly. Althea leaned her head back, closing her eyes. "You're kind," she said softly, "is dangerous, but kind. Strange mix. Ryan chuckled quietly. Yeah, that's what the universe keeps telling us. Outside, the wind began to fade completely. The desert was calm again. Ryan checked his weapon and listened carefully. Somewhere far in the distance, engines roared faintly in the night air. His instincts sharpened. He stepped to the cave mouth and looked toward the horizon. Through his visor, he could see faint lights moving across the dunes, searchlights scanning the sand in wide circles. "They're looking for you," he said. Althea's eyes opened, fear flashing inside them. "Hunters," she whispered. "They come to finish what they start." He looked back at her, his expression steady and brave. "Then they'll have to get through me first." She tried to protest. "You cannot fight them all." "Maybe not," he said, loading his weapon. "But I can buy us time." She watched him move toward the entrance, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. In that moment, she realized something she had never seen before. Not power, not greed, but a kind of courage that burned brighter than any star. The courage of a human who refused to walk away. He turned once more, looking at her. "Stay low. Don't move until I say." She nodded silently. He stepped The first light of dawn spread across the desert, washing the red dunes in pale gold. The storm had ended, but the silence that followed was tense and sharp. Captain Ryan Cole crouched behind a half-buried stone ridge, his rifle steady, eyes fixed on the horizon. The night's fight had left him bruised and tired, but alive. Several of the enemy drones lay broken around the cave entrance, their metal bodies glowing faintly in the sand. He checked his weapon to power cells left. His armor was scorched, his oxygen running low. Still, he smiled faintly. "Guess I'm still here," he muttered to himself. Inside the cave, Princess Althea stirred. The silver glow of her wounds had dimmed, but her strength was slowly returning. She felt the warmth of the rising suns, and for a brief moment she thought the nightmare had ended. But then she saw Ryan's shadow move across the cave entrance, and she knew the danger was not over. She pushed herself up, ignoring the pain. "Ryan," she called softly. He turned, his face calm but firm. "Stay back, Princess. They're regrouping. More ships coming." Her eyes widened.
"How many?"
He pointed toward the eastern horizon. Through the heat shimmer, faint dark shapes appeared, small crafts flying low, leaving trails of smoke and light. "Looks like a full squad. Maybe 10 or more." Althea's heart sank. "They will not stop until I am dead." Orion gave her a reassuring look. "Then we'll just have to convince them otherwise." She blinked at him, confusion mixing with awe. "You joke in battle?" He grinned. "Keeps the fear away." But inside, he was already thinking fast. His mind raced through possibilities. He couldn't outrun them, couldn't fight them head on. He needed a plan. The princess was too weak to travel far, and the cave was too exposed. He crouched beside the fire, spreading a rough map on the ground using sand and stones. "There's a canyon about 3 kilometers north," he said. "Narrow, with rock arches overhead. If we move before the ships get close, we can use it for cover. Maybe even find one of the older Renthian energy cores there." Althea frowned. "Those cores are dead relics. They have not worked for centuries." Ryan shrugged. "Then maybe I'll get lucky." She stared at him for a moment, then gave a small, tired smile. "You are the most stubborn creature I have ever met." He stood and extended his hand. "Then come on, Your Highness. Let's see if stubbornness can save a princess." Shh. She took his hand, her grip surprisingly firm despite her weakness. Together, they left the cave, walking across the pale sand as the suns climbed higher. The wind carried faint whispers, the hum of engines growing closer as they moved through the desert. Althea began to regain more strength. Her wounds had closed, glowing softly under her skin. Her steps grew steadier. "Ryan," she said quietly, "no human has ever walked this far into a Renthian space. Why did you come?" Ryan kept his eyes on the horizon. "I guess I wanted to see what was left of the stories. Earth's history books talk about your people like legends, noble, wise, powerful. But they also say you vanished after your wars. I wanted to know the truth. And what truth did you find?" He glanced back at her and smiled. that even legends can bleed. For a moment, she didn't answer. The wind brushed her hair across her face. Then she said softly and still, "You saved me." Ryan didn't reply. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. By midday, they reached the canyon. It was narrow and twisted, filled with towering rocks that blocked the view of the open desert. Strange carvings glowed faintly along the walls, old power channels of the ancient Arenthian builders. Ryan touched one of the carvings and felt a faint vibration, like something sleeping beneath the stone. "Maybe these aren't as dead as you thought," he said. Althea knelt beside him, placing her hand on the glowing line. Energy rippled beneath her touch. "It recognizes me," she whispered. The royal bloodline was linked to these old systems. "Can you wake it up?" Ryan asked. "I can try." She closed her eyes, focusing her energy. A soft light began to rise from her palms, spreading through the stone. The air shimmered as hidden symbols flared to life along the canyon walls. Ancient power hummed like a heartbeat. The ground trembled slightly, and a circular stone platform rose from beneath the sand. Ryan stepped back, amazed. "That's one way to turn on the lights." Althea opened her eyes. This was a sanctuary, a royal shelter for emergencies. "It still lives." Before they could say more, a distant roar echoed through the canyon. Ryan looked up. Small ships were descending fast. Dust and light filled the air. "They found us." "Then we fight," Althea said. Ryan nodded, quickly moving to the platform's edge. "Get behind cover. If they come through the canyon mouth, we can bottleneck them." Althea shook her head. "No, I can help." He started to protest, but she lifted her hand. Blue energy swirled around her, forming a faint, shimmering field. "I am not weak anymore." The first enemy drones appeared at the canyon entrance, firing plasma bursts that struck the rocks. Ryan fired back, precise and calm, every shot hitting true. 2 drones fell in flames. The third one exploded mid-air, as Althea sent a pulse of energy that cracked the sky. The noise was deafening. Sand and fire filled the air. Ryan ducked behind a boulder and reloaded. "You weren't kidding about helping?" he shouted. Althea smiled faintly, her eyes glowing brighter. Royal blood still holds some power. More enemy soldiers dropped from the ships, moving carefully along the ridge. Ryan spotted them through his visor. "They're flanking left." He warned. "I see them," she said. She raised her hands, summoning another blast of energy that rippled through the ground like lightning. The soldiers were thrown backward, their weapons short-circuiting. Ryan used the moment to sprint forward, rolling into cover and taking out the rest with sharp, controlled bursts. The fight lasted only minutes, but it felt like an eternity. When silence finally returned, the air smelled of smoke and burning metal. Ryan walked back toward Althea, breathing hard. "You okay?" She nodded, though her glow was dimmer. "Yes, but this power drains me. I cannot hold it for long." He looked around. The canyon was filled with wreckage, but the main ship was still in the air, a dark, massive vessel descending slowly. Its shadow covered the entire canyon. "That must be their leader," Ryan said grimly. Althea's eyes darkened. "Lord Zarin, the one who destroyed my ship. He was once my father's general." Ryan loaded his last power cell. "Then it's time to finish this." The ship landed heavily at the canyon floor. The ramp opened, and from the smoke stepped a tall, armored figure with glowing red eyes. His voice echoed through a loudspeaker. "Princess Althea, you should have stayed dead." Ryan stepped in front of her. "You're not touching her." The alien general laughed, the sound deep and cold. "And who is this?" "A human." "You think you can protect her?" Ryan raised his weapon. "I don't think. I do." The general lifted his arm, firing a beam of energy. Ryan dove aside as the blast hit the rocks. He rolled and returned fire, striking the armor but barely leaving a dent. Althea joined in, sending waves of blue energy that clashed with the red light of the general's weapon. The canyon filled with colors and noise like a storm of stars. Ryan moved fast, using every bit of human instinct and training. He climbed the rocks, firing from above, forcing the general's troops to scatter. Althea's power flared again, her voice echoing through the canyon. "Enough," she cried, her energy forming a massive sphere of light. But the general struck her with a counterblast that sent her crashing to the ground. Ryan saw her fall and felt something ignite inside him, a surge of anger mixed with fear. He leaped from the ridge, landing near her, shielding her body with his own as debris rained around them. "Stay with me," he shouted. Her eyes opened weakly. "Ryan, the core. Behind the platform. It can destroy his ship, but only royal blood can start it." He nodded quickly. "Then let's do it." She tried to rise, trembling. "Too weak. I cannot reach." Ryan looked at her, then at the glowing platform. He grabbed her hand. "Then I'll carry you." He lifted her in his arms and ran toward the ancient core. The general roared, firing again, but the blasts struck the rocks behind them. Ryan placed Althea's hand on the glowing crystal at the core center. Light exploded through the canyon. The carvings on the walls lit up, the symbols burning with ancient power. The air vibrated. Althea whispered weakly, "Ryan, step back," he obeyed, shielding his eyes. The core released a massive wave of light that tore through the air. The general's ship and his soldiers disintegrated in seconds, swallowed by blinding radiance. The ground shook violently, and then silence. When the light faded, Ryan opened his eyes. The sky was clear again. The ship was gone. The canyon was still. He turned to Althea. She was lying on the ground, her body faintly glowing but still. He knelt beside her, panic rising. "Althea? Hey, look at me!" Her eyes opened slowly, and she smiled faintly. "It's over," she whispered. "Yeah," he said softly. "We made it." She touched his hand weakly. "You saved me?" Again, he shook his head. "We saved each other." Her eyes glistened. "Human hearts are strange. You fight not for power, not for glory, but for kindness. I did not understand before." He smiled, brushing dust from her face. "Now you do." She looked up at the twin suns rising over the canyon. "My people will come. They will see the signal. They will know the heir lives." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then your world has hope again." She turned to him, her voice soft. "Come with me, Ryan. Help rebuild what was lost."